how it was done last time if you were with us for the last meetings. Like Michelle had said, you can submit written comments to the rate setting eval at maine.gov. The email will be also at the end of the presentation that we'll mention it several times throughout the meeting, and it will be in chat. Go ahead and thank you. Just to kind of level set, to go over the purpose of the evaluation was to develop a system for establishing and maintaining rates that are sufficient and ensuring Maine care members have access to high quality services, and to evaluate the rates and rate setting system as part of the plan to develop a comprehensive, streamlined, and coherent system for rate setting. As an overview of where we're at in the timeline, the cataloging and benchmarking workbooks are out. We had the provider listing sessions in October. We had member listing sessions in November, and now we're at the second phase of provider listing sessions in December. Interim findings report in January, and then a final report in February. And on the slide, you can see the individual bullet points of what will be included in those findings reports. Go ahead and move to thank you. So for the meeting structure and sort of the rules for engagement, our role at Myers and Stauffer is to ensure that everyone keeps their comments within the announced time limits. I'm not going to do hard time limits because we don't have a ton of attendees, and we have some time, to allow people to speak. But I just ask that everyone please respect that there may be multiple people who want to make sure that their comments are said, and to be respectful of people and the time that we have. Please keep your comments to the topics under discussion, and we will be recording the meetings to ensure that the comments are captured accurately. Prior to commenting, we ask that you introduce yourself, your organization, and the services that you provide so that we can make sure we're associating the right comments with the right sections. And if there are previous points that have been made, you can just say that you agree with that person rather than relisting all of the same comments. And again, just really respecting the time limits if necessary so that everyone gets an opportunity to speak. The purpose of today's meeting is really for us to gather the additional points that you believe we should consider regarding the rate comparisons. As Michelle had said, nursing facilities, obviously this was more challenging than some of the other services where the codes are just directly comparable across states. And we also want to understand the sufficiency of your current rates and any issues related to the rates and their impact on access and sustainability. And to that end, we have a couple of discussion prompts, just so that ways that maybe you can provide information to us to inform the next stages. Are there assumptions or costs that are critical to consider that may be unique to Maine that wouldn't be reflected in another state's rate? Are there differences in payment methodology or services that may explain some of the differences that wouldn't be evident by just looking at the publicly available information like fee schedules and service descriptions? And are there services where current rates contribute to access or quality issues, and how does that impact other parts of the service system? So those are just some sample prompts to help you frame your comments to us. Now I'll go ahead and open it up for comments. So go ahead and please raise your hand. And if you can't find the hand signal, please chat to us and Jillian can unmute you.
Okay, first up I have Rick Erb.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. My name is Rick Erb. I'm the president and CEO of Maine Healthcare Association. We represent 92 out of the 93 nursing homes in Maine. I want to thank DHHS and Myers and Stauffer for the opportunity to comment today. I would start by echoing Michelle's comments about base rates, and they will not tell the full story and do not provide a true measure of daily payments, but we know that it's a challenge to compare nursing home rates across states because we do it often, and I appreciate the opportunity to comment today for that reason. Some things that I wanted to point out include that there's a distinct difference between the level of care being provided across states. There is a significant difference going from one state to another In each of the 5 states that were being used as comparables, the level of resident need has been measured as being lower than what we see in Maine. According to CMS data, the average number of activities of daily living for Maine residents is 4.38. The range for the other 5 facilities ranged from 3.95 to 4.10. There are very few states there with Maine as far as number of ADLs, so I'm not too surprised by that. And no doubt related to that, Maine also staffs higher than each of the other states that were listed in the report. According to PBJ reports, Maine has averaged 4.4 hours of nursing care per patient day since 2017. The combined average of the other 5 states is 3.8 hours per day. And I'll say none of them are close to Maine's level. So we think that's important to note if these are going to be used for comparison purposes. I think what that reflects is that Maine has designed a system that reserved nursing home care for those in greatest need and has developed a strong home care and assisted living system to allow this to work. What it means is that we have a smaller number of nursing residents, but the expense per resident day is higher. But before getting away from the rate information that was provided for the 5 selected states, I want to especially point out my understanding of the situation in New Hampshire. New Hampshire often used as a comparison from Maine, so I'm not surprised to see it. My understanding is that New Hampshire nursing homes are reimbursed for their provider tax outside of their daily rate. It seems likely that the average rate of $181 per day that was included in the report understates the true amount being paid to facilities. I do not have the actual amount today. I would encourage Myers and Stauffer or others to seek that information. I will also follow up myself, but we do think that that understates the amount. By design, and we talked about this some in the first session, Maine's nursing homes cannot recover all costs through their Medicaid rates. Costs are therefore shifted to other payers, and if facilities have a high Medicaid population, this becomes problematic. The situation has ultimately led to closures for financial reasons. States that have a lower percentage of Medicaid residents, therefore, are at an advantage. It is worth noting that out of the 5 selected comparable, 4 have a significantly lower percentage Medicaid population. I would just point out that, from my perspective, this comes down to a decision that the state will need to make on what kind of care do they expect in Maine's nursing homes. Our staffing levels and wages do cost more than the great majority of states. If the state is going to compare us to our facilities to those in other states, we need to consider whether we should be staffing at that same lower level. I don't believe that's what the state wants. I don't believe that that's what they want to be paying for. I would just ask that if this is going to be the comparison, that we look at the bigger picture and take this into consideration in any new rate establishment. It has been a challenging time for all providers, especially lately, but just in general over the last several years. There will be some testimonies submitted by Barry Dunn about some of the shortfalls that we have endured, and I will look forward to hearing that information presented as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Next up, I have Tammy Brunetti.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. My name is Tammy Brunetti. I am a principal at Barry Dunn. Barry Dunn serves the large majority of nursing facilities in the state of Maine in one capacity or another, whether it be through assurance services or reimbursement consulting. So there's a little bit of background for you. And I do want to take the time to thank you for allowing this input today. It's very very helpful to be able to provide you with some thoughts on the report that you presented. Also based on our thoughts, of how the industry is paid comparatively in Maine comparatively to other states. The first thing I do want to say is that as advisors of the industry, we are tremendously grateful that the department and the legislatures have really recognized that the industry has a significant shortfall in payment. And over the not so distant past, the recent past, has implemented some programs and some increases to help with that. And that is best shown in a calculation of what we call the Medicaid shortfall. Annually, Barry Dunn compiles all of the cost reports that are filed in the state of Maine and calculates the difference between Medicaid allowable cost and Medicaid payments to see how close Medicaid is paying to even its allowable cost. In 2017, that shortfall industry-wide in Maine was $33 million. So payments were less than allowable costs by $33 million. That shortfall continued. It has seen some improvement. We are still at a shortfall as of 2019 of $20,340,000. And so that what that is saying is that Medicaid payments to providers really falls short from even their cost to provide their services and even their allowable cost to provide those services. And so I think that's important to sort of keep in mind during this conversation, that although there has been some improvements in the recent past, there is still some to be made there. Another database that Barry Dunn does compile annually and shares with our clients and the association, and we'd be happy to share it with you all as well. If you're taking written comments, we can share these graphs with you. We do calculate financial statement trending ratios to determine the health and viability of the industry. As those on the call know, the state officials as well as the providers know that we've had over 10% of our facilities in the state close in the last few years. And so that has caused us to sort of really evaluate the health of the facilities that remain, particularly knowing that we are an aging state. And that the projections do show that we will not have enough beds in the state to provide services to those who need in the near future. So one of the calculations that we do prepare for that include all of our clients is a total margin. A total margin is a good sort of measure of the financial health of an operating entity in any given year. It's important that these facilities do generate enough of a margin to reinvest, to invest in capital, to really take care of the balance sheet to ensure long-term viability. And I would say minimally, in order to do that, you need at least a 3% margin, and in most industries, 5% plus is really a minimum measure. Here in Maine, the data that we have for our clients shows that the average margin for nursing facilities in the state is 0.23%, so not even 1% margin. And the last data we have is for fiscal years ending in 2019. So that indicates that the industry is really having a difficult time and really is not able to invest in capital equipment in maybe systems that may help with efficiencies and improve operations. Another indicator of that is days cash on hand. Our minimum measure for financial health of an entity would be 90 days. Average in Maine is 26 days cash on hand. As you know, facilities bill Medicaid on a monthly basis for the services that they are providing, and that is in arrears. So 26 days cash on hand barely gets them to the next month. You know, thankfully, different payers pay at different times of the month, so that gets providers through. But that is a bare minimum of what we would like to see. Days cash on hand has been less than 25. We have 26.72 today, or as of 2019. From 2015 to 2018, it's been less than 22 days cash on hand. Another indicator of financial health or risk is current ratio. Does the entity have enough assets to pay its liabilities within the coming year? We like to see that at least over 1, and I would say my preference would be to be 1.5 or 2, so that ratio is current assets over current liabilities. In the state of Maine, the average is 1.17 for our clients. So all of that is indicating to me that although we have seen measurable improvements in the rate structure in the past few years relative to the supplemental wage increase or allowance, the catch up on the cost of living, which was very helpful to make that cost of living adjustment to be up through the end of our rate period. And actually more timely rebasing is now occurring than it has in the past. The industry is still in a challenging and precarious financial situation. So I think as I would encourage Myers and Stauffer and the state of Maine, as you do evaluate state of Maine rates compared to others, such as North Carolina or Vermont, that these items be taken into consideration. The items that Rick mentioned relative to staffing levels, you know, we know staffing is a challenge, and that is a challenge that's been well publicized, and it's also very costly. And so in order to staff appropriately and in order to take care of the residents with the higher acuity needs that we have here in Maine, it's important that we have a rate structure that supports those costs so that we can continue to have enough beds in the state of Maine to meet the demands that we expect to see in the near future, or the increasing demands. That's all I have for remarks, and I thank you for your time and for listening.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Next up, I have Kelly Cash.
Yes, thank you. I want to also express my appreciation for the opportunity to participate. Again, my name is Kelly Cash, and I'm the CEO of the Maine Veterans Homes. On the data tables for nursing facilities, you can't help but notice that when you compare the Maine average base per diem rate with commercial payer comparisons, you can see a rather stark contrast. And in fact, the average per diem rate for Maine Care is half of what the 50th percentile is for the commercial payers. If the goal is to provide sufficient rate for providers to be financially viable to take the Maine Care residents, and Maine Care being the largest payer in nursing home, you know, this contrast is very telling, I think. I think Rick is right on. We have an opportunity here to really set and say something about the future of nursing home healthcare delivery in the future. What are our expectations and what can we realistically provide? Again, I want to for the opportunity to participate today, and that's all the comments I have.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. I am not seeing any new hands or anything in the chat. Julia?
Okay, great. So that went by really quickly. So I'll just open it back up. If anybody has any additional comments or things they would like to say live in the meeting, you can also, of course, submit written comments to us at the rate setting eval at maine.gov email address. But I'll just open it back up one more time if anyone has anything else they'd like to speak about. I am not seeing any new hands or chat. Are you, Jillian? Just in case they're chatting directly to you.
I am not.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like it's a short meeting. So thank you all very much for coming and spending part of your lunch hour with us. We truly appreciate it. And we look forward to any written comments that you submit. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you all.